The evening air was warm and gentle as I walked up the familiar stone pathway to Michael's childhood home. Tomorrow would be our wedding day, and despite all the months of planning, my heart felt surprisingly calm. The old oak trees that lined his parents' driveway swayed softly in the breeze, their leaves whispering secrets to the darkening sky. I had always loved this house. It was the kind of place where memories lived in every corner, where the smell of Mrs. Henderson's apple pie still lingered in the kitchen, and where family photos crowded the mantelpiece like old friends gathering for a reunion. Tonight, I was coming here not as Michael's girlfriend, but as his bride-to-be. Tomorrow, I would officially become part of this family that had welcomed me with such warmth over the past 3 years. My white sundress fluttered around my knees as I climbed the front porch steps. The wooden boards creaked under my feet in that comfortable, familiar way. Through the large windows, I could see the warm glow of the living room lamps casting golden rectangles of light across the lawn. Everything felt perfect. Everything felt right. Michael had texted me earlier, asking me to come over after dinner. "Just want to spend some quiet time with you before the big day," he had written, followed by a heart emoji. We had decided months ago that we wouldn't see each other on the actual wedding morning, wanting to preserve that magical moment when I walked down the aisle. So tonight was our last evening together as an engaged couple. I reached for the brass doorbell, but paused when I heard voices drifting through the slightly open window nearby. It was Michael's voice, mixed with the deeper tones of his father, Robert, and the softer cadence of his mother, Patricia. They seemed to be having an intense conversation in the living room. I didn't mean to eavesdrop. Really, I didn't. But something in the tone of their voices made me freeze with my finger hovering over the doorbell. There was an urgency there, a seriousness that seemed out of place on what should have been a celebratory evening. "Are you absolutely sure about this, son?" Robert's voice carried clearly through the evening air. "I've never been more sure of anything in my life, Dad," Michael replied, his voice steady and determined. My heart began to race. Were they having second thoughts about the wedding? About me? I pressed myself closer to the window, my breath catching in my throat. "It's just such a big decision." Patricia's voice joined in, gentle but concerned. "Once you do this, there's no going back. You understand that, don't you?" I felt the world tilt slightly beneath my feet. What were they talking about? What decision, Mom? "I've thought about this for months," Michael said. "I know it seems sudden to you and Dad, but I've been planning this for longer than you think. Tomorrow, when Sarah walks down that aisle, I want everything to be perfect for her." Sarah, that was me. They were talking about me. But what did they mean by no going back? What had Michael been planning? My hands began to tremble as I leaned closer to the window, straining to hear every word. "The lawyer said all the paperwork is ready," Robert said quietly. "But son, this is your entire inheritance we're talking about. Your trust fund. The family business shares everything your grandfather left you. Are you really ready to sign it all over?" "Wait, what?" "Sign it all over to Sarah," Patricia added, her voice thick with emotion. "Before you're even married." I pressed my hand to my mouth to keep from gasping out loud. Michael was giving me his inheritance before our wedding. "She doesn't know, does she?" Robert asked. "No," Michael replied firmly, "and I don't want her to know. Not yet. Sarah has never cared about money, Dad. She fell in love with me when I was just a struggling teacher, remember? She didn't even know about the family money until we'd been dating for over a year. This was true. I had been shocked to learn that Michael's family had significant wealth. He had never acted like it, never flaunted it. He drove an old Honda Civic and lived in a modest apartment. When I finally met his parents and saw this beautiful house, when I learned about the family business and the trust fund, it had felt surreal. But why now, Michael? Patricia asked. Why not wait until after the wedding? Because Michael's voice grew softer, more thoughtful. I want to marry Sarah knowing that she chose me, not for what I can give her, not for security or comfort or any of that, just for love, pure, simple love. Tears began to blur my vision as his words sank in. Tomorrow morning, before the ceremony, I'm signing everything over to her name. The house we're buying, the trust fund, all of it. I want her to have the security she deserves, but I want it to be a gift of love, not a reason for marriage. And if something happens to you, Robert's voice was barely a whisper, then she'll be taken care of, Michael replied without hesitation. Dad, I know you and Mom worried when I first brought her home. You wondered if she was after the money, but you know now, don't you? You've seen how she is with me, with all of us. She helps Mom in the kitchen without being asked. She remembers your birthday, Dad. She brings you books she thinks you'd like. She loves this family, not our bank account. She's a special girl, Patricia said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. We love her like our own daughter already, which is why I want to do this, Michael continued. I want to start our marriage with complete honesty and generosity. I want her to know that everything I have is hers, not because she married me, but because I love her more than anything else in this world. I found myself sliding down the side of the house until I was sitting on the porch steps, tears streaming down my face. Not tears of sadness or betrayal, but tears of overwhelming love and gratitude. All this time, I had been worried about fitting into Michael's world, about being worthy of his family's acceptance, about whether I brought enough to this relationship. And here he was, planning to give me everything he had, not as a test or a transaction, but as an act of pure, selfless love. The papers are in my study, Robert said quietly. We can sign them tonight, if you're ready. I'm ready, Michael replied. I've been ready since the day I knew I wanted to spend my life with her. I stood up slowly, wiped my tears, and finally pressed the doorbell. The conversation inside stopped immediately. When Michael opened the door, his face lit up with that smile that had first made me fall in love with him 3 years ago. Sarah, perfect timing. I was just talking to Mom and Dad about how excited I am for tomorrow. I looked into his eyes, seeing not just my fiancé, but my future husband, my partner, my best friend, the man who loved me so much that he wanted to give me the world, not to buy my love, but to celebrate it. I love you too, I said, and pulled him into my arms. Tomorrow, I would walk down the aisle to marry not just a wonderful man, but someone who understood the true meaning of love, generosity, and trust. And that truth didn't shatter me at all. It completed me.